Hey friends, Food here. Just wanted to make a really quick video talking about why I believe the latest edition is actually a pretty big one for Dead by Daylight. So, obviously, DBD is no stranger to DLC. In fact, out of the 55 playable characters in the current roster of the game, 48 of them were added via DLC at some point over the game's life. So, obviously, DLC is a huge part of this game and what it's trying to be. But I sincerely believe this is not clickbait at all. I think this one's big. So, in case you don't know, Ringu was announced as the next chapter. It's going to come out in March of 2022, and it is going to feature Sadako as the killer. Now, see, here's the deal. I had heard about Ringu being one that people wanted for a while, and I always thought it was just completely unrealistic for quite a few reasons. So, firstly, I have seen the movie Ringu. I have not seen The Ring. I have not watched the American version. I heard it wasn't particularly good, but I did watch the Japanese version, which I believe is still free on YouTube. So, if you haven't seen it, I would highly advise going and watching it. And when you watch the movie, you get this general idea that this is not like most of the killers that you see currently in Dead by Daylight, or at least it's not like the movies that feature those killers. So, most of the killers that have been added to Dead by Daylight are slashers, right? You have Freddy, you have Bubba, yada yada yada. You have Michael, basically the king and founder of the slasher film. And then you go to the video game side, and you have people like Pyramid Head and Nemesis that very clearly fit into the role of almost a video game slasher, if not in title, in essence, right? So the unique thing here is that Sadako does not feature in a slasher film at all. This is not even a film that is slasher adjacent like the Saw films, which I would argue are more torture porn than they are actually more than they are actually slasher, right? So this one feels big because this one opens the door for a lot of DLC that I did not think was realistic. With the announcement of Ringu, one thing that kind of settled on me was that all of a sudden, maybe it's not so unrealistic to expect a Shining chapter with Jack Torrance as the killer. Maybe it's not so unrealistic to expect an American Psycho chapter with Patrick Bateman, or keeping with the whole Bates theme, right? We could get a Bates Motel type chapter. And the other thing is, Ringu is not a franchise that is currently active, right? You had a movie come out in 2018 or 19, just so the studio could keep the rights. But more than anything else, moreover, this is a dead franchise, right? This is a franchise that is not currently going through something of a renaissance. It's not, to my knowledge, there's nothing planned. I couldn't really find anything about there being a planned TV show or movie, or especially not a video game. So this is really interesting that they just identified a property they wanted, and they went out and they grabbed it. And, props to DBD for doing that, because I think that's way more exciting than just sticking to who we would expect. Nobody would have been surprised if they had announced a Candyman chapter, because at this point, the Candyman chapter has been talked about to death. I'm starting to think it's not going to happen. If it didn't come out with the film, maybe it's not going to happen. But even then, as I was just pointing out, there's nothing happening on the Ringu front, and yet they still went out and they grabbed the chapter. So I think this opens the door. I think this opens the door for non-slasher killers, and I'm very excited to see where they go with that. And I just wanted to make this quick video to point it out, because I haven't heard a lot of people talking about how massive this is. How massive it is that for the first time they're adding a non-licensed character. A licensed character who is not a slasher. This is the first one that's not slasher, or at least slasher adjacent. Sadako is very much featured in a more psychological film. Ringu is not a film about intense gore or, brutal kills. It's all about atmosphere, and I'm very excited to see what they do with this. I think it's going to be a hell of a chapter. I'm very excited to see it. So let me know down in the comments below, who do you want to see as the next killer? Do you think it's possible that this opens the floodgates, and maybe we get some killers who people say, they don't really fit stylistically with DBD? Because that was my impression. I did not think that Sadako fit with the Dead by Daylight formula, and I'm very excited to see how she's brought in. Also, are there any other foreign killers you would like to see? Because while I understand that DBD has done non-American and non-Canadian killers, right? I think, in fact, I know Behavior's based out of Canada, so I guess the American killers are actually foreign to them too. But, I know they've done Oni, and they've done Spirit, and they've done Plague, but what I mean is killers that originate in foreign cultures. You know, Ringu is a foreign film, and I guess maybe that's a silly question because Konami is also not American. They made Silent Hill, but anyway, you know, is there another film that maybe you never thought you would see in Dead by Daylight that all of a sudden it feels more realistic? Because just off the top of my head, I have a few that I really did not think were possible, and I already listed a few of them. Obviously, I would love a Patrick Bateman chapter, especially if they could incorporate Hip to be square in his chase music somehow. I don't even want to know what the legal requirements for that would be, but you know, I mean, the hilarity of it would be worth it to me. Beyond that, another one I think would be an Amnesia chapter, which I always thought Amnesia, you know, it's all about the atmosphere. That's definitely not a slasher game in any sense of the word, but now it feels a lot more realistic. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I got really excited when I thought about this. I got really excited to think about how, you know, this is not like other DLCs. This is a genuine left field surprise from Behavior, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. So again, let me know in the comments who you want to see, or let me know if you don't think I'm assessing this correctly. Let me know if you're listening to all this and you're like, yeah, I don't know, Food. I think this is just another DBD DLC. But anyway, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, bye friends.